Howdy. Welcome to the second video in Module 15. In this video we'll complete our survey of the proof rules for the Boolean connectives. We'll cover the introduction and elimination rules for negation. Hopefully the work we did in the last video on the contradiction symbol will make this all relatively straightforward. As with all of our connectives, there are two rules for negation. The elimination rule is one of the easier rules and will not delay us for long. The rule of negation introduction, though, is more complicated. It corresponds to the informal proof rule of proof by contradiction, which is why we need the contradiction symbol. Like the disjunction elimination rule, negation introduction requires a subproof. But unlike disjunction elimination, you only need one subproof. As with the exercise that you did for the contradiction symbol, the two exercises assigned to this video will show you how the proof rules for negation work in Fitch. So here are the learning objectives for this video. After watching it and completing the assigned exercises, you should first be able to apply the introduction and elimination rules for negation, and then second, be able to use the proof rules for negation in Fitch. So as I mentioned, the rule of negation elimination is really very straightforward. It basically writes into our logical system what is sometimes called the rule of double negation. The rule of double negation depends upon the fact that any sentence P is tautologically equivalent to the sentence not P. We've already come across this when we looked at the tautological equivalences. It's a simple consequence of the truth table for negation. If you negate the sentence not P, then you're effectively saying that not P is false. But if you're saying that not P is false, then you're effectively saying that P is true. So the rule of negation elimination in effect allows us to replace a double negation. So the rule of negation elimination simply writes this tautological equivalence into our logical system. Here's what it looks like in our standard format. Just a couple of things to note. First, the move from not P to P takes place in the same proof or subproof. So you write P directly below not P. And then second, the only thing you need to cite is the line where not P is written. Hopefully that's all very intuitive. So let's turn now to the rule of negation introduction. As I've mentioned on several occasions, this corresponds to the informal proof rule of proof by contradiction. You should be familiar from the last video with the contradiction symbol and how it works. So here's the rule of negation introduction. This is how it works if you want to derive the negation not P. So first, you start a new subproof and assume P. This corresponds to the assume for contradiction step in an informal proof by contradiction. Second, you show in the subproof that P leads to a contradiction. And then finally, back in the original proof or subproof, you write down the negation not P. There's something I need to stress. When you justify an application of the rule of negation introduction, you need to cite the entire subproof where the contradiction is derived. Here's an illustration. The subproof begins at line M and ends at line N. So you need to write down the name of the rule, negation intro, and then the lines from M to N, as I've done here. Now that we've seen how the rule of negation introduction works, we're in a good position to see why negation introduction is often followed by negation elimination. Take a look at this example. Here we want to prove P. So we start by assuming not P for contradiction, and then we derive a contradiction from not P. What that allows us to do is to write down not P in our original proof or subproof, citing the entire subproof. To get from that to P, we need to apply the rule of negation elimination in order to eliminate the double negation. So let me end by emphasizing once again a point that I made in the last video. We have two rules that allow us to derive conclusions from the contradiction symbol. One is contradiction elimination, the other is negation introduction. They behave very differently, and it's important to keep them distinct from each other. Here they are side by side to make it easier to compare them. When you're using the rule of negation introduction, you can only write down the negation of the sentence with which your subproof began. And you must write that down in the main proof or in the subproof immediately to the left. Now look at the rule of contradiction elim. This rule says that if you've derived a contradiction symbol at any point earlier in your current proof or subproof, then you can write down any sentence whatsoever. But you can only do this in the current proof or subproof. So that covers all the ground I wanted to cover. Here are some key points to remember from this video. First, the rule of negation elimination allows us to eliminate double negations. It's justified by the fact that not P is tautologically equivalent to P. Second, the rule of negation introduction corresponds to proof by contradiction. And then third, to apply negation intro to derive a sentence P in a proof, you need to use a subproof that shows that assuming not P leads to a contradiction. So I've assigned two exercises to help you get more familiar with these rules and to see how they work in Fitch. Both of them are you try it exercises. Good luck.